So today we're going to be continuing our series on famous molecules in perfumery. And unlike the other ones I've covered in the past, for example, hedione, isoe super, and ambroxan, and if you want to go and check out the videos on those, then the link will be in the description for those too. But unlike these other molecules, which are pretty well known in popular culture, at least within the niche perfumery sphere these days, the molecule which I'm going to talk about today has largely gone under the radar. Now, this molecule goes by the name of linalool, and you might be surprised if I told you that there's a good chance that this molecule is found in even more perfumes than you might find either a hedione or an isoe super or an ambroxan. It really is that widespread. And if you pick just about any bottle of perfume that you have sitting on your shelf up and you go and look at the label on the back, you'll probably see linalool as listed under the ingredients. You know, not for everything, but for a really good chunk of things. And while hedione and isoe super are modern synthetic molecules which aren't known to be found in nature, this linalool stuff will even rear its head in fully natural perfumes. So what is this linalool molecule and why is it so prevalent? Well, linalool is part of a class of compounds called terpenes, and you don't really need to understand exactly what that means. So if you are interested, definitely check out my online course where I explain that in more detail. But essentially, this linalool stuff is naturally found in a load of different plants. And because of that, it naturally makes its way into a very large number of essential oils. In fact, the word linalool comes from the linalool wood. And in some essential oils, for example, hoe wood and rosewood, linalool actually composes above 80% of the essential oil, meaning more than 80% of the molecules in that essential oil you have are just linalool. But it's also important in a lot of other essential oils too. It's found in a vast array of them in trace quantities, and actually in things like lavender and bergamot, which are very important in perfumery, linalool does comprise quite a high percentage. And it's actually very important in the smell of those two essential oils too. If you go and smell linalool and then go and smell those essential oils, you should be able to notice its presence. So then, why is it on so many labels? Well, the simple reason for that is because it's found in so many essential oils, it naturally makes its way into most perfumes just because of that, because if they've used just a little bit of an essential oil, there's a good chance that contains linalool, and then there's a good chance that it ends up on the label. Now, most ingredients or raw materials in perfumery you don't actually have to put on the label, but in the EU, they have a special list of things which are classified as potential allergens, and under the EU law, things on that list must be included on the label if they're in the final product, aka the finished perfume, over 0.001% in the finished product. So linalool is one of those things, and that means even if you have a very small amount of linalool ending up in your perfume just because it happened to be there from some essential oil, as long as that goes over 0.001% of your perfume, then it has to be put on the label. And that's why you see it on so many labels. So then the next question you may be asking is, well, is it actually important then in perfumes, or does it just happen to be there and it's actually not that important in the perfumes at all? Well, yes, it is very important, and perfumers frequently make use of linalool on its own, isolated synthetic version or a version that comes from a natural but a purer version, without necessarily always using the other essential oils. And the reason for that lies a little bit in its smell. So I've got some here on the scent strip, and if you go and smell it, it's this very kind of soft, fuzzy, kind of slightly herbal, but overall very natural smell. And perfumers can take advantage of this, especially when building certain accords. The reason for this is that by adding a little bit of linalool to your otherwise synthetic accord, what it can do is it can make it smell a lot more natural. And it's that same quality that it has out of being in all of those natural essential oils. It has this kind of natural background smell that we kind of recognize as humans as a nature smell. So by adding that to your accords, it can make them smell more natural. But also, beyond that, when constructing specific accords, for example, fruity and floral accords, because linalool is naturally found in many flowers and fruits and it forms part of their smell, by adding the linalool to the floral and the fruity accords, it can help perfumers make a natural and realistic smelling reproduction. So that is something I cover in my brand new online course. If you're interested in learning in detail exactly how you would go and do that, practically speaking, for example, by following demonstration formulas where I show how linalool can be used to make realistic smelling floral and fruity accords, then definitely go and check out my online course. Now, beyond all of that, it's not just accords where linalool can be useful, it can actually be useful in finished perfumes as well. And that is because of this kind of general, soft, natural smell that it has that's, you know, it's not too loud. It actually is quite soft and it helps to bring other raw materials together. And because of that, it's quite good at what I would say is creating space between them. It essentially allows the other raw materials to breathe. So in that sense, it can be used a little bit like something like a Hedione or an Ethyl Super, this kind of soft, fuzzy base that helps to bind all the other raw materials together in your perfume, especially some of these stronger smelling ones, which would otherwise be quite loud and trying to shout over the top of each other. Adding a little bit of linalool can help create a little bit of a gap between them, and it can help to smooth them out. Now, while linalool on its own is quite nice and pleasant and natural smelling and has all of these wonderful effects, you'll also find the very similar smelling ethyl linalool. Now, when you smell linalool, it's got that kind of slightly rustic, herbal, natural smell to it. When you compare this to ethyl linalool, it smells similar, but it's a little bit less rustic and herbal, and in place it's a little bit more silky smooth, a little bit softer and creamier. And this ethyl linalool, while this one is not actually naturally found in nature, this one has been picked up by perfumers who work on designer perfumes, and because it can be used in a very similar way to this linalool to create space in your kind of top to mid note. And remember before when I said linalool was important in the composition of natural bergamot essential oil? Well, both linalool and ethyl linalool can be used in perfume compositions in a similar place to how bergamot is traditionally used. So bergamot is often used to bridge the top and the mid notes with this kind of nice diffusive, it kind of adds a top note projection or an impact to your perfume composition and helps smooth and round out the other kind of top notes and bridge them into the mid notes. Well, ethyl linalool and linalool can be used in similar ways, especially the ethyl linalool, this being a little bit cleaner smelling, especially if you've got one of those modern designer perfume compositions where you don't want so many more natural or rustic kind of or more herby characters. You want it to smell more clean and smooth and modern, but you still want to have that kind of overall soft, natural background smell. Then ethyl linalool can be really useful in that situation. Now, I talk about both linalool and ethyl linalool as well as a suite of other related molecules in my brand new online course in the module on superpower raw materials for perfume composition. So if you're interested in hearing all about those, then definitely check that out in the link in the description below. Anyway, I do hope that you learned something in this video, and I would recommend trying out both linalool and ethyl linalool if you have it in your own perfume compositions to see if you can see that effect for yourself of creating space and adding that bridging effect and that smoothing effect between your mid and your top notes in your perfume composition, and see if you can actually notice that effect of kind of increasing the impact and that initial projection. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time with another video all about perfumery.